How are you doing this?
Jason, place your hands!
Okay.
Your hands, Jason! Drop to your knees! Drop to your knees! Hands behind your head.
You got it.
Hands behind your head.
You got it.
Don't move.
I'm glad to see you. Okay. How are you doing this?
Jason, place your hands!
Okay.
Your hands, Jason! Drop to your knees! Drop to your knees! Hands behind your head.
You got it.
Hands behind your head.
Hello, and thank you for your time and consideration. This is Jason James Bickford, and I'm going to present to you a video outline of my arguments for police brutality and failure to provide medical treatment while preparing an argument for that second case. I kind of found myself with a hybridized argument. I have new information that I think bolsters or refurbishes that first argument, so this will be covering both of those lawsuits, in as much as an attempted cover-up of assault led to my denial of treatment. So technically the denial of treatment begins with a cover-up that takes place before the assault begins. Here's Officer Scott talking to EMT.
This was before he came in. This is the part of his head that hit when we took him down to the ground after he kicked the shoe at him.
Officer Scott just lied about the nature of my injury. This is after Teeters knocked her body cam off before the assault.
This is the part of his head that hit when we took him down to the ground after he kicked the shoe at him.
So that serves as the first verbal incident report, Officer Scott lying to the EMT, who are off to a bad start. The body camless Officer Scott followed Teeters' lead by lying. Those lies include, I was a violent threat who assaulted Scott, several officers were needed to take me down, and in the process of being taken down, I bumped my head. So why are Scott's misrepresentation of Teeters' assault to the responding EMT and Teeters' subsequent misleading incident report statements important to a failure to provide medical treatment lawsuit? It's a good question. First, the severity of my injury wasn't completely obvious before swelling without close inspection. Before the swelling from those broken facial bones began, the nature of my injury was misreported to the BFD medical responders, who quickly arrived and left within 10 minutes, and with a zygomatic fracture, emergency cares needed to minimize facial disfigurement, otherwise the bones will begin to fuse incorrectly. The correction of which requires maxillofacial surgery, in which those the cheekbone and eye socket there, the facial bones are rebroken and then reset. So that's the surgery I would need to correct the permanent damage. I was seen by Dr. Avner over at Broomfield Hospital. I spoke with him on the phone, and he said essentially, yeah, the window had closed for emergency treatment by the time I got out of jail and went to see him. He said, I can't help you at the emergency room. And he said that he would also be able to serve as an expert witness if we needed. So contradictions in official reports with video footage, my seriously delayed booking and arraignment, and misleading booking paperwork suggest that Teeters intentionally misrepresented the incident to would-be supervisors and the nurse, so that the written reports and booking photos compartmentalize this issue. And this kind of cover-up didn't begin with the faulty incident reports, which I will prove are full of lies. They began here when Teeters stepped into the cell after knocking off Officer Scott's body cam. Viewing this incident from the perspective of a supervisor or staff nurse makes a couple things clear. I got the nurse on camera too. They would review this incident report on the computer network and then look at my booking photo. Now, much of the incident reports contradict the surveillance footage. My mugshot was taken after I was assaulted, and the incident report says I came in swollen. And this is a lie that's repeated by the nurse. Let's go over to the incident report, and we'll take a look at some metadata here. This was posted at 1:16 a.m., over 7 hours before the nurse came to see me. She would have read this before visiting me. It says I came in with domestic violence charges and that my face was swollen, bruised and swollen before I came in. Now, photographic proof that I don't have any bruising or swelling on that side of my face is seen right here. All the damage was done on the right side of my face by Teeters. Criminal mischief and domestic violence. The nurse saw this as well. She thinks I'm a wife beater who got roughed up. That's my mugshot. They recycled it in a lo-fi version for the second mugshot. So both of those mugshots are the same photo, two different versions of it, and it was taken after I was assaulted. So the nurse read that and thought I came in looking like that and I was lying to her. This explains why her audio's cut out and why she seems to be completely out of the loop as to how I got my injury. Now, much of the audio had been altered on the footage in which I met with the nurse, but I can prove this audio was manipulated right here. So throughout my meeting with the nurse, the audio keeps cutting out like this. It's worth noting I found it a red flag that she conducted her examination through a slot in the door, briefly. Whoever edited this video cut out most of what she says, but we got some key stuff. I'm not cutting that audio. That was just an example of her just beginning to speak, and then the audio cuts right out. So that's the kind of censorship I was seeing there. And this officer standing next to her, her body cam was not provided to us, but would serve as an excellent document of this entire conversation. The cameras in the cell don't have audio, so we can't hear from that other perspective. But I explained to the nurse here my zygomatic fracture, and I explained to her that I had a concussion, and this is what she said.
Now, why do you think
Yeah, we just haven't done the movie.
what kind of difference between a rock and a hard case? Number one, you guys cooperate with us, so they can be up. At the appropriate time, they will try to meet the booking process.
And then it cuts out. Hey, here's my favorite part.
Then I can get you medical. Yeah, bruiser, doesn't look like it happened last time.
Having read the incident report, she was told that I was a drunk wife beater who came in and assaulted an officer, and I was already swollen when I came in.
Then I can get you medical. Yeah, bruiser, doesn't look like it happened last time.
I've done my best here to try to transcribe the next audible bit.
They get it, officers on the streets or whatever. I'm just here to take care of medical concerns, so I'm just that. When they get ready to finish the booking process, cooperate with them, and that's when you oversee, so I have
So what you've seen transcribed here in this video are the audible highlights that we can hear. So she asks me why I think I have a concussion, but doesn't really do anything for me, and continues to allow me to lay on the floor. I tell her the assault happened on the camera. I point to it. She tells me it looks like you came in like that. Now, she's under that impression because of the report from Teeters, which says that I was drunk, I was a wife beater, I assaulted the police, I hit my head on the way down, but I had already come in bruised and swollen. When she looked at my booking photo, she sees a swollen face and it looks like I came in like that, and we can prove I didn't. So was Teeters responding to a direct threat, as he says in the incident report? We can pick apart this incident report and show that it's just lie after lie after lie. He began walking towards Officer Scott. That is a lie. He then kicked his shoe at her. We can argue about that, but no one hit her with a shoe. I kicked a shoe at the wall. It ricocheted and hit the wall a second time. I then kicked my other shoe off right under my feet as a sign of good faith that, hey, I'm not going to kick another shoe at you. But I got a karate chop to the neck He began walking towards Officer Scott. That is also a lie. That never happened. I was standing in the rear corner of the room under the corner camera. I didn't move. I didn't kick a shoe at her. She never claimed assault. I was never charged with assault. Those are facts. Those aren't opinions. Commanding Officer Teeters knocked off Officer Scott's body cam. Didn't look too happy. Then he came in here and did something completely different than what he says he did in the incident report. There's no evidence of the threat described or implied by Officer Teeters, so his incident report repeatedly contradicts video footage. At this point, he says, I ran into the cell to stop the threat. So there's no threat here. Now this, if perceived as a threat, seems to be immediately ascertained as what it actually is, a shoe on the ground. I then kick my other shoe off right next to myself there, and that's me kicking my shoe off, that gesture there. So now both of my shoes are off. I wanted them to know I wasn't going to kick the other shoe at them. That didn't stop Officer Teeters. At this point, he runs into the cell to stop the threat. I am standing with my hands at my waist, not moving towards them, near the rear of the cell, with both my shoes off. I am no way whatsoever a threat. I'm not moving towards them. I have both of my shoes off. I kicked the second one near me. Video footage clearly shows a different story here. I want to talk about physics a little bit and the equation for force. Thank you, Sir Isaac Newton. Mass times velocity equals force. Now, if I take a cinder block and hit someone in the head with it, that's assault with a deadly weapon. But if I take their head, real big tough guy takes my head, slams it against a cinder block, that's the same exact force exerted against my face with the same object. But it won't be described as assault with a deadly weapon, especially not by Scott and Teeters. So the reports, both verbal and written, they contradict video footage, and they reveal an intentional and repeated obfuscation of the assault, leading to me being left in the authority of the very officer who assaulted me and then lied about it in the first place. They get together every morning at 10:30 with their body cams off and have private conversations together. Check this out.
So one of the great things working here is that at 10:30 every morning we eat lunch together. We all get along and we all kind of have that great personality and that we click together like a family. We watch out for each other, take care of each other.
That's why you're doing this.
When are you going to take responsibility?
I haven't broken the law today.
We're not here to decide if you broke the law. We're here to make sure you are safe. Your safety is our number one priority.
I just got my face smashed into the fucking wall on the floor, and I... Why did you do that to me? This guy's still having a panic attack over here. You getting a bad adrenaline rush?
All right, stop talking crap.
You got his face strapped in? Listen to his breathing. This guy's excited off of this stuff. It's really sick.
Teeters claims I was drunk and very emotional throughout the entire incident.
I haven't provided any kind of threat to any of you.
Click together like a family. We watch out for each other, take care of each other.
Officer Teeters in his incident report uses the term muscling techniques. This is another term for grappling or wrestling. He says, I ran into the cell to stop the threat by taking him to the ground with muscling techniques.
It becomes a very slow, controlled fall, which is what I love about this. I'm protecting Stefan, because just because he's an idiot at the bar doesn't mean he deserves to have his face smashed into the concrete.
So I looked around online at resources for officers and military personnel for grappling and responsible takedown procedures. I took a look at how to take down an angry drunk person without hurting them. So the protocol is to take this person to the ground and restrain them. You want to bring them down. But first, he strikes me in the throat, then puts me in a headlock. He spins me around, not down. He also restrains my arm so that my head will hit the wall to maximize the impact. Again, mass times velocity equals force. What should he have done?
I'm going to step it back and drop down to my knee, like this. It becomes a very slow controlled fall, which is what I love about this. I'm protecting Stefan, because just because he's an idiot at the bar doesn't mean he deserves to have his face smashed into the concrete.
So there's a bit of an argument here that is to be made for both lawsuits, that Teeters has set the stage for a deception. Before he commits the assault, he behaves in a way in which he wants it off camera. He goes into the corner. He has Scott follow him after knocking her body cam off. This basically is a blackout. It's one that he thought was off the books, and it's not. We've got to look at what he does to me, and it's a heinous assault here, which he continues by smashing my face into the floor. So this is the guy that's in charge of mediating with the EMT who got there and left in 10 minutes.
Oh, stop hitting my face against the floor, please. Stop doing this.
We're gonna get the chair. We're gonna get the chair.
Yes.
It's almost cliche, but here I am saying I can't breathe and I can barely get the words out.
Oh, stop hitting my face against the floor, please. Stop doing this. I can't. Stop doing this. I can't.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, please stop pushing my face.
You done?
Please stop pushing my. Yeah, get that.
Jason,
Please stop pushing my.
are you gonna listen?
Ow!
Are you gonna comply?
Dude, I'm not. How am I not
Okay,
complying?
because that was just.
Hey, you just threw your shoe. Shoot an officer. Don't worry, you'll be fine. I've been assaulted by an officer.
Hey, listen to me. I'm the fire department. I don't care about that. We're here for...
Well, then why am I talking?
Well, because you were injured.
An officer here.
I hear you. So I'm here to assess you on your medical condition.
Officer beat the shit out of me.
And then it turned into an
I've
assault.
been assaulted by a police officer. I've been trying to take it seriously.
Okay. Is he
This
just coming
officer
into the
beat the
facility?
fucking
Yes,
shit
just
out of
coming in. Okay.
I've
Listen.
been assaulted by an officer here.
Hey, listen to me. I'm the fire department. I don't care about that.
They act like I'm the guy in the report, not the guy in the video.
We're here
Well,
for...
then why am I talking?
Well, because you were injured.
So the bros at the fire department don't want to help a complaining, wife-beating, cop-assaulting asshole that they heard about. And you know what? Even if that was true, tough shit, it's their job. I'd like to take a time out here to point out some nonverbal communication between this fire department employee here and the officer in the corner. He looks up at the cameras and then looks at this officer and shakes his head. I'm just curious what the hell that's all about.
I hear you. So I'm here to assess you on your medical condition. Can I do that?
Okay,
All right. So, what side of your head hurts?
take a guess.
So he is coming back. Open your eyes for it.
Open it.
No, I'm just gonna look right. I just want to see your eyes. What day of the week is it coming back?
Hi, Pete. I don't even know.
What month is it?
I don't know. I'm kind of foggy right now.
Who's your president?
They asked me 3 questions. I got 2 of them wrong. I couldn't tell them the day or the month.
Yeah, he was arrested on the streets. He got here. He was uncooperative. Everything's okay.
It's on
He still has to.
I need your focus to see
He still has to stay. He has to be booked into jail. So even if he doesn't.
Why am I even here?
Hey, buddy,
Why am I here?
did your neck hurt?
Yes, please stop doing that.
We're just
Okay,
trying to,
I don't need my head scratched. Okay.
we're
yeah.
trying to perform medical
I
assessment.
don't want to look down.
Hey, Jason,
Roll
what's up
my
with
head
medical
back. I
history?
can't breathe.
Hey, Jason, do you have any medical history we need?
I got my fucking ass beat here tonight, guys. Are you with the fire department? Dude, I got my fucking ass beat and it's on camera here. Please help me out, dude.
Your blood pressure, is it okay? Just make sure we're good. Okay. Yeah, no, you can keep it right there.
Yeah, that's fine. That's cool.
Jason, are you hurt anywhere?
Pardon?
Are you hurting anywhere?
Yeah, my face is fucking killing me and I can't even feel my teeth. I feel like I just went to the dentist and got Novocaine. Like I feel like I feel like sometimes I'm not even saying my words right. Like I can't feel my lips and my tongue.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
house on camera. Please help me. I haven't broken the law tonight. I haven't done anything wrong. I shouldn't be here.
You're running on domestic violence.
No, I'm not
That's
here
what
on
I'm
domestic
not saying
violence.
anything. That's what you're charged with. One of your.
No, I'm not. They're lying to you. I'll get them some water.
So those were some extracted highlights from my under 10-minute meeting with the Broomfield Fire Department, who were lied to by Officer Scott and by Teeters repeatedly about the nature of my behavior and how I got my injury. I feel that had the EMT known exactly how I got my injury and listened to me and, considered that, then I would have been brought to the hospital for further examination of a broken face. But they thought I was lying to them. They took the word of Teeters and then left me in his care. So Teeters was in charge of what happened to me. So Teeters made the call. It was ultimately up to Teeters. He assaulted me. He covered it up before he put his hands on me. He lied to everybody. And then he fed lies to the nurse in the incident report. So when she finally came to see me the next day, she told me I didn't even get my injuries there. My claim that I had a concussion was ignored. I was treated as if I wasn't injured. Everybody acted as if nothing happened to me at the jail after this assault. I was told to lay down and just start complying, but I wasn't booked the next morning. It took me 2 days to get to court. When I got to court, the cameras were shut off. I noticed in the videos provided by Officer Teeters, he provided the court video for my second appearance at court. There was the release and then recapture of me. I was out for 40 minutes, went to the police station to pick up my property, and they said that I shouldn't have called my fiance Ryan and that they violated me, brought me back to the jail. I was thrown in the isolation cell again before going to general population. So I was refused treatment the entire time I was there, both times. I literally left the jail for only 40 minutes in a taxi, went straight to the police station, and was immediately arrested and brought back. So I was told I got my injuries before I came into the jail by the nurse. I was never seen by her again.
Then I can get you medical. Yeah, bruiser, doesn't look like it happened last time.
It looks like the officers directly involved with the assault began a cover-up. Like I said, before Teeters put his hands on me, he began covering up what he knew he was about to do. He wanted it off the books. He kept it that way. He manipulated and controlled information and misrepresented the assault to the EMT so that I would be left in his care. And then upon being left in his care, he lied to the nurse, and she was told that I got my injuries before I came into the building. I'd like to point out, too, the officer standing next to the nurse, when the nurse says, it looks like, that bruise, that looks like you didn't get that here last night. The officer looks over at the booking station. She turns her head, and but there's no officers in the within earshot. Nobody says anything about that in my defense. So that officer knew what happened and stood there while the nurse told me that she's under the impression that I got injured elsewhere. I kept bleeding for over 24 hours. They washed my clothes to hide that. They had me take a shower. I was, as we can see later, pretty covered in blood. I had to attempt to feel around my broken face and try to push some bones that were misaligned. That was incredibly, incredibly painful. But I believe there's some footage coming up here in which you'll see I'm repeatedly vomiting into the drain in the floor. I cannot eat any of the food they give me. I'm given solid food and I request liquid food, and they deny me liquid food. It seems almost as if all of the staff was on board with ignoring my injury and acting like I wasn't injured. Nobody really wanted to acknowledge this. So I wasn't given Advil. The nurse never brought me into medical to get examined or treated. I told her my injury was a concussion and a zygomatic fracture, also dental damage. And I was correct about all of those estimations. So when I was sitting on the floor talking to the nurse hunched over in the slot in the door, while she was telling me that she was going to get me into medical if I cooperate, but I didn't get my injuries at the jail, I was telling her, I was assaulted here, you've been lied to, and I pointed at the camera and said, it's on these cameras. If you look at the cameras, you'll see I'm telling the truth. The officer standing next to her, her body cam would have all of that on audio, but that body cam was not provided. We have timestamps on that though, so it'll be easy to track it down if those cams still exist. I can also prove with video editing software that's pretty basic and easy to use. Any expert can take a look at the video that they gave us and they'll see that the audio was manipulated on the nurse's visit. So it looks like Teeters and the jail's compartmentalization of information hasn't stopped. They also failed to give us the video for my first court appearance. And that is because they shut the video cameras off for court. So they do video court at Broomfield. And when I came in covered in blood, and you can see me here, I'm vomiting blood as some of this video goes on and the time in this cell continues, you'll see the blood is collecting on the smock that I'm wearing, which then gets swapped out for another one. And I believe they wanted to minimize the appearance of the blood. It's worth noting that we did not get the camera footage from my first appearance at court. You'll see this is the second appearance after I was put in general population. So there I am down in the corner. And I believe, well, they didn't want to give us the camera footage when I was completely covered in blood. They didn't want the judge to see me like this during my arraignment. So I would be speculating, but from what I understand, the video court is the standard. People gather in this room here and get in front of the camera and do video court. How many days out of the year do they shut the cameras off? They were having a curiously timed technical difficulty. The day before the cameras worked, the day after the cameras worked, but on that day that I was arraigned, the cameras did not work. Protocol is to not leave anyone in the restraint chair longer than 2 hours. I spent over 3 hours in the chair. Teeters says it's because he seemed emotional through most of his time in the chair, and I did not want to risk another use of force. Quite frankly, that's complete bullshit. And I'm going to suggest we should talk to Officer Ross, who kept watch on me while I was in the chair. She was the only one that was nice to me. And we've got her on camera giving Teeters some dirty looks right after the assault. So I'm thinking maybe she could verify that Teeters is completely full of it there. And the leaving me in the chair to protect parties, that's also a complete fabrication. So we got Teeters red-handed lying all over the place. Now we've got dozens of hours of me not feeling well in that isolation cell, and I just want to take a look at just a few highlights from that and go over my condition while I was being held in that cell and not treated. I was literally completely swollen and covered in blood. I was pretty unsteady. And you can see here the way I'm getting up. I'm kind of moving around like a geriatric here. Now, I'm a fit man, 40 years old at the time this was filmed, but I was pretty unsteady and dehydrated. And the swelling in my face and the disorientation and the equilibrium shift was starting to kick in. These types of injuries weren't noticeable when the EMT came to see me. They came in when I was still numb from the pain. And I told them I had a serious head injury and I was still numb. They ignored the fact that I was displaying symptoms of someone with a concussion after a serious head injury. So they ignored those symptoms and left me in this cell where I was then told to lay down. Now, basic first aid teaches you not to give anybody you think has a concussion advice to lay down. You want them to stay alert and not go to sleep. People with concussions, it's recommended at the very least you sit upright and keep yourself occupied. They told me to lay down and go to sleep. I actually had such a bad headache that the only way I could minimize some of the physical pain in my head was to lay prostrate on my side. I also had to physically move some of the bones around in my face, and there is a couple different angles here in some of this footage, and you could see some of the awkward bone sticking out of the side of my face. Again, this would have been obvious to any of the staff that were observing me that I had a serious injury and some broken bones. But as I said, in the video is on my side here, and the audio, you heard the audio from the nurse. They acted like I wasn't injured or that the injury didn't happen. I was seriously bruised on my hand and wrist there too, and that's part of the physical assault from Teeters that is on video. He was doing sadistic, torturous things with my wrist and fingers to inflict pain on me, while his other hand was around my throat, choking me. I believe this man is displaying the symptoms of someone who'd be checking off quite a few things on the violent sociopath checklist. And we have a national epidemic right now that's a public conversation because correctional facilities and police departments are unable to screen violent sociopaths out of police departments. So about 1% of American citizens are sociopaths. Oh, there, I almost lost it. Did you see that? So that's me vomiting more blood, and here you can see the bone in my face. So what I'm saying is, whether or not Teeters is a sociopath, there's some violent, sick fucking people, and they're dishonest, and they like to do and get off on what they do to people like me. So here I am. I can barely stand. I can barely stay up. There's also footage of some seizures. So while shaking and vomiting, an officer came to the door. He looked at me and then reported to the desk. He's shaking kind of funny. And then there was silence, and then he walked away. And nothing ever came of this. And now, if we had the body cam footage of the officers who were watching this cell, that audio would be available on that body cam. Unfortunately, these cameras from the cell here that you're looking at now, they don't have audio. So we can't hear the officer at the door reporting to the desk going, he's shaking kind of funny. Now here I've got some damage on some upper molars in the back of my jaw where my face hit the concrete. I also want to reiterate, if I didn't make it clear before, the incident report suggests that I was bruised and swollen when I came in. I did have a minor cut above my left brow. All of the injuries are on the right side of my face here and have nothing to do with the scratch on my right, above my right eyebrow. There was no bruising and no swelling above that side of my face. So I did not come in bruised or swollen. I had something that looked like a cat scratch above my eyebrow. Now you can see on my cheek there, the bone is like poking out the side of my cheek. That's not me like pushing my tongue out the side of my mouth there. That is the bone not being where it should after my cheekbone was shattered. I told the nurse exactly what my injury was. If we can get the body cam of that officer standing next to the nurse, and this is our meeting right there from the other side, you'll see I'm requesting some liquid food, and I'm talking to the nurse here, seeing if I can get liquid food in exchange for the solid food I can't keep down or chew, and I'm denied liquid food. I was often denied water for hours on end, and I was vomiting up liquid, and I was in a cell with no running water. So I had to move around bones on my face. Here I am trying to eat some what looks like a taco chili meat, and I can't chew it. It's incredibly painful. The taco shell itself, as you can see, is completely out of the question. But I was trying to chew on that the meat sauce, and I can't even keep that down. So that just gives you an idea of how difficult things were for me to eat. And that's why, even though I'm weak and dehydrated and have vomited up all the contents of my body, and I'm now basically spitting up water and blood and any kind of other fluids in my gut, I was not given liquid food. This exacerbated the symptoms of my trauma. Someone with a head injury like this is supposed to be well hydrated, upright, occupied. I should have been talking to someone out in the lobby. They should have had me sitting in a cell with an actual chair or a bunk so I could sit up. Telling me to lay down and stay there after I displayed symptoms of a concussion is not just ill-advised, it's further damage. It's abuse and failure to provide treatment. So this is the compound argument here. My injuries are exacerbated, my trauma, the suffering here. I'm going through an incredible amount of pain, and I'm trying to rearrange the bones in my face while I stop seizures with a migraine level pain in my head, as well as a kind of nerve damage. The best I can describe it is as like an electrocution type feeling. Like I feel like I'm getting tased in my face. So you can see here my face is swollen, the bruising is severe, and I'm trying to get some kind of alignment there in the bones in my face. I believe we have some video footage here of the shaking, and there's more camera footage from this cell. Like I said, I was in there for a few days, so there's quite a bit. I don't want to take up, hours and hours of your time with all of the footage. This is a little bit of a taste of it, but I was unwell, unsteady, vomiting, rearranging maladjusted bones in my face, told to lay down when I had a concussion, given 2 ounces of water at a time with hours at a time in between. I was also left in that restraining chair for over an hour and a half longer than protocol would have allowed me to. You're only supposed to put someone in those chairs for 2 hours. They had me strapped in there for over 3 hours. In the report, Teeters claims that I was strapped in the chair for extra time because there was parties in my case. Parties. Multiple people involved with me that were in the jail that needed to be removed in order to remain safe from me. So they had to keep us apart, and that's why that happened. That's a complete fabrication. So my guess is that Anthony Teeters was never expecting to explain himself for what's happening here on camera. So I'm not being hyperbolic when I say I was tortured and then gaslighted. We have Anthony Teeters not just assaulting me, but doing sick, twisted shit to my hand and wrist just simply to inflict pain on me as he's choking me. And I'd like to point out he's twice my size, so I don't know what everybody was busy doing trying to restrain me. In the incident report, it says that I didn't resist. So what was all the commotion and all the moving up and down with Anthony Teeters' arms when they're restraining me? Well, he was moving my head up and down into the floor, which exacerbated the damage. Those EMT came quickly after that incident and left within 10 minutes. They asked me a couple questions I got wrong. I knew who the president was. I didn't know what day of the week it was. I didn't know what month of the year it was. I didn't even know where I was or how I got there. We've got video and audio of that. So I got one question right, didn't know what was going on, and then repeatedly told them they'd been lied to and that I was assaulted and my injuries were more serious. They ignored this and then left me in the hands of the man who assaulted me and began the cover-up before he even put his hands on me, and then continued the cover-up, and his partner, Officer Scott, continued this cover-up. Now, these people have lunch at 10:30 a.m. all together in the same little room because nobody has an office, so they all eat lunch together with their body cams off, and they can get their story straight. Here I am having my seizures involved twitching of the legs, arms, and neck spasms and spasms in my face. I provide a timestamp on this one. There's more where that came from. Like I said, this video could be 12 hours long if we wanted. So if they want to go there and play hardball, we've got footage of cops looking in the window at me having a seizure and then walking away. If we get some more of that booking room or police guard body cam footage with the audio on it, we could get the officer who reports my seizure to the desk, and then they do nothing. So, I mean, that's heinous. An officer reports me having a seizure and they don't do anything about it. I don't know what to make of that. They lied to the nurse, and she told me I didn't get my injuries at the jail. And then she promised me she'd get me into medical, I'd get examined, and I never was. Also, the jail said that they were under the impression I was suicidal. Now, when you watch the footage on camera, you can see I'm looking out the window trying to get their attention, kicking the door, so they'll hear me and look over. It's clearly a staged event, and I think they probably realize that. but they never did a mental evaluation or psychiatric evaluation before releasing me either. And you can see how swollen my face is. So that's not just a bump from falling down.
Yeah, I'm gonna put him in the business. Come on, ladies. I'm gonna lock them down.
It may be worth noting that Ryan Bessett, my fiance, seen here, was arrested and charged with assault and battery with me, and those charges have been dropped and erased from her record. In closing, I would like to speak briefly about my experience after leaving Broomfield Correctional and dealing with what would quantify as symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, including but not limited to nightmares, incredible bouts of anxiety, particularly when I hear sirens, and I live right near the police department barracks, so frequently when people are being dispatched from the barracks, there's police sirens. So that sort of phenomenon isn't uncommon in my area. I'm located just a couple miles from the jail itself, actually. So cops are driving by my apartment all the time, sometimes with the sirens on. And I notice my heart rate, my palms getting sweaty, and this sort of thing seems completely foreign to me and out of character for me. And the only thing I can think of is I have PTSD. I'm typically one of those people that kind of likes to walk it off, shake it off. I'm not one to run to see a doctor about something, and I typically wouldn't want to see myself as someone prone to that kind of response, but it certainly is what I'm going through. I have trouble sleeping at times. I wake up. Sometimes I have a combination of like a migraine lightning storm in my head that is concurrent with something like a seizure, muscle spasms in my arms and legs and my neck. And I believe this has something to do with the serious injury to my head and the nerve damage. I don't know if that's attenuating or not. I have a constant pain on the right side of my face and my temple area going down the side of my face. And there's still a bit of numbness around the corner of my eye and towards the back of my upper row of right teeth, my right upper molars. I have some damage as well as a kind of numbness. I feel like I just got back from the dentist and the Novocaine is not finished wearing off back there. And that's been the case now for over a year. And so there's numbness where there shouldn't be. It makes eating a problem. And there's something that feels like what I would describe as like getting tased in the face. Not fun. Something kind of like an electrical shock running up and down the right side of my face from my temple ear area down into my jaw. I'm disfigured from this. My eyes, brow, and nose are uneven. My cheekbones are uneven. The bones did not set exactly the way they were. Surprise, surprise. So I have disfigurement. I've also documented, I can send you some photos if I haven't sent them, of what the injuries looked like shortly after I got home. I'm also in a particular battle with the court that's not directly related to this, but there likely is or will be soon a bench warrant for me not showing up to probation and a court appearance because of some civil disobedience I'm engaged in, and I would like to proceed with looking for a lawyer to work on getting my case thrown out. That may be something I don't get to work on until maybe I'm financially more stable. The probation and fees and whatnot and loss of productivity has caused me some financial hardship as well that has exacerbated the post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's all types of other things, but we've all got to deal with that. So I don't want to sit here on the pity pot too long, but I'm in pain. I have trouble sleeping. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. And probation tells me I can't even smoke a bowl once in a while to help get some sleep. I can't even use 0% THC CBD-based hemp products in order to help me get some sleep and reduce the seizures. So, but that's probably something I'm going to go after Broomfield with in a separate legal matter while trying to fight this this domestic violence felony, which they have zero exculpatory evidence for. That crime didn't happen. And if there was any damage here in my apartment, it's been inflated by like 300% in order to turn this crime into a felony. So to top it off, the icing on the cake, and I'll leave with this, no crime ever even took fucking place. I didn't even break the law. What should have been maybe a noise disturbance warning turned into an assault, a lack of care, and now I've had a year of mild to, at times, severe trauma. And I don't even like to dwell on thinking about what's wrong with my brain, but I've never had seizures before, and I have absolutely no medical history with mental disorders or problems with migraines or any kind of other type of serious injury. So I'm physically fit. There's nothing wrong with me. There's no reason why that stuff should be happening to me. And I think it's because I got my head cracked open. I'm done talking about it, though. So yeah, I think I've gone over most of what I wanted to say, and I'll tack on some addendum stuff here at the end of this video in post-production if I've missed anything. But if I haven't, I'll just sign off by thanking you for your time and attention and your help with this issue. So that was my hybrid argument for 2 lawsuits. I was assaulted. The assault was covered up. This assault cover-up was the beginning of the failure to provide treatment, which exacerbated my injuries. So these 2 lawsuits kind of have a symbiotic relationship.
Then I can get you medical. Yeah, bruiser doesn't look like it happened last time.
Why are you doing this?
Jason, place your hands!
Okay.
Put your hands, Jason! Drop to your knees! Drop to your knees! Hands behind your head. Hands behind your head. Don't move.